Two Iraqis came here to this country, were radicalized.
For that terror attack overseas.
Total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
First of all, we should develop detention centers for them.
Everywhere there is Islam, you'll find women oppressed.
Transpired this week in the news. I know we're not like John Oliver summing up the week's news or stuff, but what we want to do is talk about how, there was a government shutdown, which is fine, and it came back up 2 days later. We had the Women's March, which was amazing. We had Tom Brady and the Patriots win another division title and moving on towards another Super Bowl. And as much as I am not a fan of the Patriots, and nor do I follow NFL, actually I have much reservations against the organization itself since what happened to Kaepernick. But that aside, I want to start tonight by talking about something that brought Tom Brady and the Patriots back into the Super Bowl, third time in 4 years. Carl, do you know what that is?
I assume that you're referring to the cheating. Is that what we're talking about?
I wish I could.
That it was the Inflategate that brought him back to the Super Bowl.
Aside from all the criticism, which I think is valid, also, it's the fact that when things aren't going right, you have the guts to go back to the drawing board and rehash everything that's transpired thus far and say, where did we go wrong? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. That makes total sense, because you have to start somewhere. And, if you have to start over again and go back, it's like, how did, what did we do wrong last year? What can we do better this year? What changes can be made? And it's a learning experience. One of the things that, given everything that's transpired in our society in the last year, I've become very fond of saying, those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And I feel like at some level we're in that cycle where we're not learning from our past and we are repeating it.
And that's well said, Carl. 2 points I want to take from that. First, the historical aspect of things, as you said. I've always been a firm believer that history has already been recorded, right? What's happened in the past. Now, we as human beings have the ability to either write our own history or repeat history. We will write our own history if we move forward whilst learning lessons of the past, and we will repeat it if we don't learn and take heed of what happened in the past and just move in any direction that we deem fit for our whims and fancies. That being said, we talked about the drawing board. It wasn't so much as what they did bad last season. They won last season also, I think. But what happened this year in the beginning, they didn't start off right. And in the course of their journey, they said it's okay to stop, reevaluate, reassess, and then move forward. Using this principle, which is evidence of their success by them being the Super Bowl again this year. In a similar fashion, humanity needs to stop, and we need to reassess the state of our human conscience. And that's really what we want to talk about today, the deterioration of the human conscience. Because we're living in a world, and you're talking about the last year, Carl, and as much as many of our listeners may agree with you, I would disagree with you. And that's because it wasn't a year that this changed. There was a trend of pre-existing deterioration that was happening. It only came to light how far we've fallen in the last year. It came to light that how you can lie, you can cheat, and you could just change the wording. You could say lies are called alternative facts, or you could call it fake news. You can cheat and say, well, someone has to win and someone has to lose. So integrity, honesty, truthfulness, and all the other so-called human qualities that we so proudly applaud ourselves and pat ourselves on the back for, because we are humans. And these are things that you don't see in animals per se. You don't see that in the fishes. You don't see that amongst the plants and the trees, because they don't articulate these qualities or feelings the way we do as humans. We've lost them. We need to understand, and that's what I'm hoping we could do today in our short discussion, the human conscious gone wrong. Where did the deterioration state start? If we were to do what the Patriots did, is that stop. I know the season's ongoing, i.e. our lives are still running forward. Stop. Let's go back and let's reassess. Something went wrong in us that caused this. And the way I want us to understand it, it was something that went wrong and we let it slide. And that thus evolved into a snowball effect. And the snowball continued to grow bigger and bigger, and all we were saying, it's only a snowball. Yes, it's a snowball, but it's so big now it could cause an avalanche, and I think the avalanche is coming.
So, yeah, pass over to me. Okay, cool. No, no, and that really does go back to what I was saying, is that you're right. I mean, it's one of these things that I think for me, it's a sad thing for me, because if you want to call it naivety, if you want to call it whatever, I saw where we were going. I saw the progression that society was making. I was happy with that. I was joyful. I was like, look where we're going. Look what we're doing. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. But, you know, under the surface, all that was there, like the Titanic, you know? You hit the iceberg, you saw the iceberg, but what was under was even bigger than what was outside that the boat actually hit. And you know, while I say, you know, those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, you're right that all of this has been under the surface this whole time, and for whatever reason, it's become okay. Oh, you're a bigot, you're a racist. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. You know, you were just talking about you know, alternative facts and fake news. And right before we came on, I was actually reading an article where they arrested somebody somewhere. I don't remember where exactly, but he was going, he was locked and loaded and headed to the CNN studios to kill the hosts because he wanted to do Trump a favor because he wanted to stop the spread of fake news. And it's, you know...
Well, you see, Carl, that's just an amazing, you know, it's just amazing what you just said, because sometimes in life when it comes to hit you that things aren't going right, and you're paused in a situation that's happening in front of you, and you can't do anything about it. That's how you feel. That's how you feel, because you feel like, okay, we pushed through the season thus far, and we got here, and you forget that it's not about getting up to here, it's actually winning the Super Bowl type of thing. So you're like, okay, we push like the Vikings. We pushed all the way up to here. Well, it's going good. We're here in the semifinals, so it's something better. No, we want to go all the way. And if you don't strategize for winning the cup, getting to the finals is only going to cause you more pain. Getting to the semifinal will cause you pain because you could have done a bit better and gone the whole 9 yards. And that's exactly what's happened to humanity. We're like, okay, but fake news is like, there were signs up during the Women's March, and there was one child who was holding a sign. Again, I was up in New Jersey, never got a chance to participate or to follow any of the marches that occurred around the country, but there was a sign that I saw on social media. A child said, "My president speaks words that I can't speak at home." This is an innocent child saying that, this is a reality. You and I are reading it and we're like, yeah, that's it. It's like, yeah. And like, yeah, what? So the reason we brought up alternative facts and fake news today, as we have done maybe multiple times in the past, is because your conscience as a human cannot fall to the level where it will helplessly accept what's happening. Let me give you a point. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was informed of a companion that was amongst a group of companions traveling in the desert as they were confronted and approached by an oncoming caravan. So think about this. You're traveling with your buddies and there's a guy coming from the opposite direction. Initially, there's like a lot of smoke. Then you see this vague figure and the figure comes closer and you see the human being. You don't know if it's a man or a woman. Then it's come closer. Then you know who the person. You can see the person's face. It's okay. This is a human. This is a man. And the person comes close enough, and then they show a state of unease. So he saw all these Muslims, and he saw this himself as alone, and he thought that they may have thought negative about him. So he said, "La ilaha illallah." Allah. And that one companion said, "Oh, you just said that because you thought we would kill you or something, but you're lying." So he killed him. What did he do?
He killed him.
He killed him. Now, remember, no one's going to paint a fairy tale picture and sugarcoat it and say Islam is hunky-dory and when these things happen. Things happened. But how Islam addressed those matters, how Islam promoted an ideology, how Islam put down an ideology is very important to understand. Islam brought about peace. Islam forbid killing. Islam put a penalty even if someone was killed by mistake. Like, for example, you drop something, God forbid someone died, there's a penalty for that. So this case, someone come, he said, "La ilaha illallah, no God but Allah," because look how many of you guys are like, "Oh, you're saying it because you're scared, but you're not a Muslim," and they killed him. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he heard about this, he called him, and he was so mad. It said that there was like a vein popping on his head because of his anger. He said, "What will you do on the day of judgment? God will ask you why you killed that person." He kept on saying it. Why? You can't let things slide. Because if he said, "Well, next time have better judgment and just don't do something, it's okay, let it go," you've just opened a door for other people to do the same. He made him feel so bad for what he did that he will never forget, and nor will the people around him forget, and nor should we forget as the ones who read this incident through the hadith, that tomorrow you're going to stand accountable. If you lie or cheat, or if you kill someone, or you're a source of killing someone because you don't understand or you don't believe someone for what they claim to be, even if he wasn't a Muslim, Carl, are you allowed to kill the person?
Sorry, wrong switch. No, you are not. Killing, if you killing one person is akin to killing all of humanity, and saving one life is akin to saving all of humanity.
So in this verse alone, of course, killing is permitted, especially when you're at war and you are against your enemies and they're attacking you, your liberties, your freedom, your community. Then of course you will do that. Other than that, this situation was unacceptable. And the Prophet kept on uttering it to make sure that no one ever thinks that this could be justified under any context. That's why the Quran says that if someone comes to you, إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا, if a storyteller comes to you spreading news, go and find out, is it true or not? I was at a church over this weekend, Carl, and I was at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Manatee County, which is outside of Sarasota. Same county, actually. No, neighboring county. We saw a few of the service and had a talk, and we were taught this. Why should you, the God, and to tell you the story so I could put in context, there was a lady, she's elderly, and she lost all her hands and she lost her feet, Carl. This is all that she was showing. She was just like this. And apparently when she had a surgery in the hospital, they gave her medication. The reaction of the medication was it ate up her fingers and her toes. The body started tearing. So she only has like this part of her hand. And she was telling me how she was blessed that despite losing her hand, she could still, choir, and she's blessed that God still gave her brain. And that's where our discussion started. I say, isn't it amazing that despite you not having your toes and function of your feet and having the function of your hands, you said that God brain, its purpose is that we understand things. We don't let people tell us so. That's why we love our listeners when they engage with us. If we say something that they feel is not correct, engage with us. Let us have a discussion. Maybe we won't agree upon it at the end of the day, but at least you'll understand there is a different perspective and there's an angle of approach. Talked about the brain, they realized and they said, yes, it's true. Why should we just sit back and listen to the media always saying Muslim this, Muslim that, Trump this, Trump that, anything, Trump, anti-Trump, or pro-Trump? Go find out if it's the truth, especially if it relates to you or it bothers you or it's something that concerns you. If not, don't indulge in vain because it's not worth it. So Carl, there's a deterioration of human beings, and that has led us to state as zombies. Just past a small iceberg and you're on the Titanic and you're like, you know what? This one looks a bit bigger. I'm just going to pass through it also. And that's exactly what will happen to all of us. We're going to rip from down under. And before we know it, we are head down, heels up, and we're done. It's going to go straight down the ocean. So, Carl, I want to talk about one thing. How state. And I believe the initiation of this downfall, because as I told you, it wasn't 1 year. It was time. This is coming through time. We're talking about 10, 20, 30 years. And I saw something today which made me figure this out. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight. The common courtesy to me, Carl.
You cut out there. Give me that one more time.
So the initiation of all this, in my view, is the loss of common courtesy. Can you explain what's common courtesy?
Yeah, so common courtesy is basic things like I know when I was growing up, holding the door for someone, saying thank you, saying please, greeting someone with a smile, doing things like that, just basic nice human actions. When you greet someone, say, how are you? Or how was your day? Or, listening to someone as opposed to talking over them. Or when you're talking to them, you shouldn't be, and I can do this because I'm that kind of person, but you shouldn't be on your phone like this, talking about how wonderful they are. Eye contact, that kind of stuff. That's Carl, a good, yes.
You said basic common courtesy, basic things, right? I could promise you in 5 years from now, no one will know it to be basic or common, and it's only going to be basic. It's something that maybe humans will have to go to school to learn. They may have to be a course that would have to be introduced. It's a real thing. Let me tell you one thing. How many of us would remember that if the toilet didn't flush, door and exit, because we were scared what the next person would think, right? You try to fix the toilet, you try to do something to make sure that it flushes, because that you could walk out and the toilet is nasty, and the person who's coming after you that you may not ever know in your life, you never met and you may not ever meet again, but you have this sense of shame. What would they think? I was at the airport in New York this weekend. A guy walks out of the toilet and it was feces everywhere and urine, and he didn't have the slightest shame. He left the door straight open and he walked. And this is called the loss of common courtesy. Let me tell you another thing. I'm at a gas station.
Let's be fair. You were in Newark, so I mean,
And although New York looks so beautiful, I have so many stories of my 1 hour at New York, which we'll tell maybe another time. But let me tell you this. I was filling up gas today, and a Muslim sister drives up. She pulls up in a parking lot in a space, right? Now, if you are in a parking space and you open your door, everyone opens their door around the same place, right? It doesn't matter if you have an SUV, a car, it's that same region that you open it in. And how many of us look down before we exit the car? We just turn off the car, open the door, and we're out. Now, what she did was she opened her door, she spilled a bunch of water, she spilled some other stuff, she washed her hands, she closed, and she drove away. Now, the next person that comes and they open their door, and God forbid they slip on that water, or they're wearing slippers and it goes through their slippers onto their foot, whatever it was. Our inability to understand common courtesy. You can't flush a toilet, you can't understand that someone else position. Why not walk to a sink and wash your hands? We're looking for what's convenient for me. If I don't find a garbage can, Carl, we just throw it on the street. This is very common, especially in the Holy Land when people go for pilgrimage. Garbage cans are full, granted. Put into a bag and then throw it somewhere else. But no, if it's on the floor, let everything else go on the floor. And pause here. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us etiquettes. And he told us, for example, spitting. Then spit in front of you, behind you, to your right or to your left. If you have to spit, then look straight down, spit and cover it with the dirt. Why? Because whichever direction you spit around you. So have common courtesy for angels. If you're instructed in Islam to have common courtesy for angels, what then to say for human beings and creations that you can see? Why spit in front of the area where they're going to pull up and there's going to be someone's urine or diaper, old coffee spilled over there? So, Carl, lost our sense of consciousness of who we are supposed to be. What was common in general and known is no longer common. It is no longer general. It's complex and it's unknown. It will be maybe history tomorrow. There may be a museum in New York of common courtesy. And the thing is that we really need to go back, those values, as the Patriots went back to the drawing board and fixed their game, and that's why they are where they are. And just to set the record straight, Carl, I am not a Patriots fan. I don't follow NFL, but if I did, I'm not a Patriots fan. Go Eagles.
So, whereas you're from Florida, I will tell you this story because you will appreciate it. Mm-hmm. When I got my orders for the military, I was stationed in Jax Beach. And the day I stepped off the plane to report for duty was the inaugural game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, wow. Unfortunately, I am a Jaguars fan baptized by fire. That's why, even though I'm from New England, I'm supposed to be all go Patriots. Even when I was growing up in a New England house, my entire household was go Dallas. So, yeah, I got your back on this. We're not real big Patriots fans around these parts. But to be honest with you, what I'm hearing from you is we need to bring back finishing schools, and not just like the old school, like I know there's you have a vision in your head of women in skirts and blah blah, but finishing schools for everyone, men, women, everyone in society. They should go to a finishing school to remember how to open a door, to remember how to put trash in the trash can, to remember how to say please, thank you, excuse me. I'll be honest with you. When I was learning Arabic, excuse me was the first word I learned. La mu'akhaza. Mm-hmm. It was the first thing I learned.
Wow. See, that's amazing. That is amazing. And Carl, all we could do here about Islam is to talk about what's happening, remind ourselves as we remind our listeners tonight, to listen to this either on Facebook Live or you download it via podcast. Spread the word, spread the reminder. Let's put it into practice and let's create a vibe in our houses, in our communities, in society, in our cities, in our nation. Reenact those great values that defined us human beings.
Amen. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of Raw Islam with Imam Azhar. Make sure if you're downloading this on iTunes that you give us a like, give us a check, and share it with your friends. Tell your neighbor. I always tell people that this is not the only podcast I do, but the best story that I ever heard was when a non-Muslim told a Muslim about a podcast that I do about Muslim issues. For me, that was the apex of my career. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm done. I reached it all. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank everybody for the likes, the comments, the shares. Make sure you join us on Patreon. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Leave a comment if you're subscribing on iTunes. If you're not joining us on iTunes, you can get us on Stitcher and on Google Play and TuneIn and everywhere else. And in fact, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching this on Facebook, the address is right here at the bottom of the screen. Let's see if I can do this with the reverse camera here. rawislam@vennetwork.org. Drop us an email. The Imam will answer your questions. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we will say Assalamu alaikum.